In today's session, we going to discuss about managing the firewall policies of our OCI Network firewall using a Python tool, a script that we wrote to manage bulk migrations and bulk configuration of the firewall policies. Let me give you a quick introduction of our Oracle network firewall. This is powered by Palo Alto market. It's a market leading uh, next generation firewall services. Now we are offering it is we are running that under the hood for customer as PaaS service, and it does threat prevention scanning and URL filtering, which is otherwise not natively available for us from the network security list and the security groups. So, and that is a common reason for customers for provisioning this network firewall and using that in their architecture. And in today's discussion topic is going to be specific to managing the security policies. Um, um, so there are use cases where the customers are trying to migrate policies from their existing marketplace firewall for firewalls that they have, or even migrating policies from their on-prem onto the Oracle cloud. Then the actual configuration is pretty time consuming. The reason being, if it has to be done over the OCI console, depending on the rule base, it takes days for them to get this configuration done appropriately. So so when we are working on similar requirements, we had to come up with a tool which could actually fast track this provisioning. So what we've done is we've created a script which can actually take inputs from an Excel sheet and convert them to meaningful JSON files or configuration files that our OCI firewall network firewall understands. So these are the key features or benefits of this tool, which is streamlined policy management. If you know, our Oracle firewall actually gives you an option to bulk import, but then exporting the policy at this point in time is not natively available. So the tool will help you export your existing firewall policy into an Excel sheet. So reviewing your rules becomes easy. Making bulk changes to the rules is easy, and also saving it saves time in making those bulk changes. Then in OCI console, you can just make the changes in the Excel, convert them to a configuration file, and then import it to the firewall. So again, when it comes to say migration use cases, this tool can definitely come in handy, and that is where we are currently using this tool. So let me give you a walkthrough of a firewall policy, the newer version firewall policy after changes. This is how the newer version policy looks like. On to your left, you see all the policies resources, and there are different resources that could be used in configuring your security rules. And you have decryption rules, security rules, applications list. These are the resources that you will need when you're trying to configure a policy. You may not need all of them, but then this tool is going to generate the configuration files for all these services when you run them. So this is the import option that OCI console gives you. However, when you click on this import and then try to import this configuration, it will accept only JSON files. So the tool is going to help you generate these JSON files for address lists, services list, and services and service list, applications and applications list, and the security rules. While the URL list and decryption rules are not available in the current version of the tool, but then if you see a lot of use cases where you also need them to be included in the tool, we can surely do it. That should not be a huge challenge. And I also would like to explain the dependency between these different resources. The security rules needs the application list and services list and address list. So when you build a security rule using these objects that are there, so there are dependencies between security rules. It will need applications list, services list, and address list. So when you import the configuration, the address list, services list, and application list to be done even before the security rules are imported. So that becomes a prerequisite. That's a dependency that you will have to understand while you are importing the JSON files that the tool generates for you. Next is the dependency between the application list and applications. So applications is a subset of application list. So when you will have to import the applications first, even before importing the application JSON files. Similarly, services is a subset of services list. So you will have to import the services JSON file first, even before importing the services list. So your address list, services, and applications needs to get imported, followed by your service list and applications, followed by your security rules. Now, all of this import configuration is currently, we are doing it over the OCI console because we want this tool to be used uh, by folks who do not have an extensive understanding of Python scripts or even any scripting for that matter. So we're trying to keep this configuration simple, and by importing the kind of you will end up understanding the policy structure. And then when your users mature, then by the and if they start like the tool and then start using their tool, if they find it helpful, if they start using it, then obviously we can also automate this piece as well. That would not be a problem. So for now, we're trying to keep the automation lean and see if that is efficient for our users. Key consideration of using this tool is this uses the Excel sheets column names and services names the as an input and converts them to meaningful JSON files. So if you change the structure of it, or even change the sheet names, then this tool will not generate JSON files that are helpful for you to import in your OCI Firewall. So these are the things that we'll have to bear in mind while we are using this tool. And here in this slide, I'm going to show you how this Excel sheet looks like. It is the Excel sheet has IP list, services, and security rules, as you can see. And in this IP list has only two columns. One is name and then the addresses. So there are some considerations that we need to have. We need to be aware of while naming and adding addresses to this sheet. One is the names must be unique and should start with a letter and can have numbers and hyphens and underscore or even spaces for that matter. You can have spaces in the names, but then it can't be more than 2 to 28 characters long. So that's how you should name these your address objects. And the IP address objects can be a single IP address or an IP address with a prefix. And also you can have multiple IP addresses under the same name, separated by commas. Your Excel sheet, you can enter data like that, and the tool will be able to convert that to address list JSON. So the IP list will get converted to address list JSON that you will be importing into the policy. Similarly, this is the services sheet. The services sheet has name, type, minimum port, maximum port, ICMP type, and services columns. And the naming convention would be similar to what our IP address sheet is. And if you see the service type, the type column is the key column, and you would use TCP services or UDP services depending on the service that you create. So you would give it a friendly name which adheres to the naming conventions, and then choose either TCP or UDP service, and then enter the minimum and maximum port in the port ranges, and that should be it for the TCP and UDP service. And if you're creating a service group, so you're not creating a single port range service, but then if you're creating a service group, then it has to be, you will have to choose service group under the type. So the template, there is an Excel template that is also available in the GitHub that gives you this Excel sheet with drop-down box, so that you do not change the name of this type. So you will have to use the same exact name for it to convert it to the services list JSON. So you can have, again, you would give it a friendly name. And here, instead of updating the port numbers, you will leave them empty. And then you would just enter the services names here. So if you're creating a group with multiple services, and let's say you create a group called web and you want both 80 and 443 to be part of that, then you would add HTTP and HTTPS to that group. Similarly, if you are creating another group and want SSH and DB port to be part of it, you would add the services names and the services column separated by comma. So next is the ICMP application type. So you will choose for creating ICMP applications, you will choose ICMP and give it a friendly name. And this Excel sheet allows you to create ICMP type codes. You will choose ICMP type for ICMP applications. If you're creating an ICMP group, you would choose ICMP group as the type and add all the ICMP codes that you will need as part of the group. And then this single sheet will get converted to 4 different JSON files. One is the services JSON, services list JSON, application JSON, and application list JSON. So these JSON files will have to be imported to the OCI network firewall policy configuration. So and this is the final sheet or the security rules sheet. And in this column, you would see in the sheet, you will see name, source, destination, port, application, and action. These are the same fields that you will see even in the OCI console. It's just that in the security name, you would give it a name, again, adhering to the naming standards that was explained earlier. And for source and destination, you can either have the IP addresses added here, or the names but then the IP address or the names must be available in the IP list sheet. So you can't add addresses here that is not part of the IP list. So just make sure that you add those addresses as part of the IP list first, and then call those IP addresses. You can either use the IP address or the names for both the source and the destination. And for the ports, you should be using the service names or service groups names that you created in the service list. So you would use those names and add those names here in the port column. And finally, for application, you can again use either the application application names or the application list names that you created added in the service list. That has to be part of this application column. So so if you mix up, that is, if you add application to port or ports names to application, then the JSON file will get created, but then you will not be able to import them to the Oracle firewall. The firewall will not accept or understand that JSON file. So your import would not be successful. So that is what is explained in this here. So the source and destination columns can either have names or IP addresses. The port and the application needs to have only the names. And finally, you can choose actions. Allow or drop is allowed at this point, is accepted at this point in time. Again, we can expand that to intrusion prevention and detection in future, and also have encryption related rules depending on the use cases that are emerging, and if it's really required for the tool, and if then we can obviously have that as a roadmap item and include that in the tool. That should not be an issue.